As you loot the body of your foes, you find a small leather pouch, and inside are 22 cards with gilded edges made of vellum. So tell me, adventurer, will you draw from the deck of many things?
Hello, adventurers. Modern Artifice here, and today we are taking a look at something very special, an iconic artifact from the core history of D&D. So first, I want to give a shout out to my friends at Wizards of the Coast for sending me over this copy of the book and the deck of many things. So many of you might be asking yourselves, what is the deck of many things? It's actually an artifact that goes all the way back to the days of Greyhawk, originally consisting of 22 cards, each with a random effect for either positive or negative things. But very few parties ever come in contact with the deck of many things without suffering dire consequences that lasts an entire campaign. Originally was 22 cards, each made up of things like balance, void, the dungeon, the star, everything from gaining a knight or a title, along with having your soul ripped out of your body and just shunted elsewhere, could happen just by pulling one of these cards. And in this new book, they have expanded that deck to 66 cards, vastly complicating in both good and bad ways the things that the deck can do to you and your party. And they say that no plot survives PC interaction. Well, very few plots ever survive a deck of many things thrown in. So let's start with the main thing, the deck itself. It is beautiful gilding edges. This is absolutely phenomenal. The artwork on here is incredible. Each one of these cards has iconic imagery relating to things within the D&D universe. And not every card and what it does can be taken at face value. Wizards of the Coast has also included a deck reference guide that shows off various ways that you can interpret and use the deck in your game. Everything from spontaneously building an adventure or alternate uses for it, such as doing tarot spreads. Me being someone who has always been fascinated with magical cards, I'm looking at you, Cardcaptor Sakura fans. You know who you are. It has always had a very special place in my heart, and Wizards went above and beyond in really trying to bring that magic that was evoked from the deck of those people who like the idea of random chance, of fate, of intertwining destinies. And we all play D&D, and we leave the dice up to fate. So isn't this just the next best thing? One of the things that I really liked with this is that the deck itself doesn't come in a simple cardboard box. It actually comes in a beautiful, almost slipcase-like design with 3 individual slots for 22 cards in each of them, and featuring a goblin fortune teller. This is something that really was adding into the value for what you get out of this, because it really made you feel like you were getting something special, and the deck reference guide sits really comfortably directly on top. My only critique on this is that I wish they had included, again, comes from loving and being obsessed with tarot, a beautiful purple and gold embroidered or embossed silk cloth to lay out if you're going to do your spreads or to wrap your cards up in it. But honestly, this slipcase style like box is beautiful, has wonderful attention to detail, and again, it really makes you feel like if you whip this out of the table, players will be left aghast and wondering what's going to happen next. The book itself is a 192-page hardbound book. This is the alternate art cover, which I don't know if is still available at this time. However, the art on the regular book is just as beautiful and features Asteria, the main star of the show at this point, under a sea of constellations. We will deal with that later on. In the book itself, you're going to find puzzles, traps, magic items, feats, backgrounds, new enemies, and new ways to use the decks in your game. It is a treasure trove of expansion on this deep-seated artifact that really will take many of your sessions and campaigns to the next level and beyond. Several of the chapters in this book actually go into individual cards and how they've spawned cults, demiplanes, and factions all of their own, and how they can be interwoven into your own campaigns. One of them in particular is a chapter entirely devoted to the dungeon, a card that when you draw it, you are locked away elsewhere, and your party must try and rescue and find you somehow. The magic items in this book are also incredibly interesting and varied. Oracle decks that essentially turn you into a divination wizard, but as a cleric or paladin. Pretty fun. The House of Cards is an alternative variant of Darien's Instant Fortress, that it's a deck that you can then use as an action to shuffle and enlarge into a giant house made of cards. It's pretty cool and an alternative to glamping in a way I didn't think of before. I don't know about you, but I hope there's no strong winds that day. One of my absolute favorite magic items in this book, though, and it's the Artificer playing into me, has to be the Telescopic Transporter, which is an observatory-sized telescope that allows you to point at a location and teleport your party to it. I can't honestly think of something that's cooler than that since we got airships in Eberron. There are also 2 new backgrounds in this book, Rewarded and Ruined, which have your character encountering the deck of many things in your past before you've even played, and how it had gifted you or cursed part of your life. It's very fun to add that extra little tidbit of, did you rise to the ranks that you're in, or are wallowing in the gutters because of interactions with this accursed artifact? Perhaps you previously encountered the deck and drew the moon card and wished for bounty and fortune in all of your life, and now you have the lucky feat. Or maybe you drew death and survived, and now, always fearful that you'll be stalked, have the alert feat. It opens up many different opportunities for great roleplay and gives you some nice benefits to boot. Additionally, the book includes many different supernatural charms, which a lot of you might be unfamiliar with. They are small boons that can be given to a character that they can then use, and once used or after a certain number of uses, they're just gone. It's really great for when you want to have a meaningful and lasting impression on a character, but not be so overpowered where it's something like a magic item or a feat that's a bit too strong for the party. One truly iconic place that is mentioned and described in this book is the Sealy Market, a slice of the Feywild that just plops down wherever it can find respite, offering exotic wares from far-off lands and more than a few fortune tellers. However, beware, this market is the absolute bane of murder hobos, because it is watched over by a moonstone dragon named Pazradine that has the ability to know the location and distance of every object that is stolen within the Sealy Market. It is every player's worst nightmare. I'm watching you. I know it was you. Always watching. It's a really great way to inject some of those more exotic goods from campaign setting specific places into your current campaign that normally wouldn't fit in, but those players really want. This book probably includes my absolute favorite feat that has ever existed in D&D, the Cartomancer feat. Now, a lot of people are abuzz about it because of what it can do. It allows you a feature called Hidden Ace, where you can put a spell that's on your spell list that has a casting time of 1 action and cast it as a bonus action. In addition, it gives you the Prestidigitation cantrip, which there are innumerable uses for it. The final thing that it lets you do is you can now use Prestidigitation to replicate the effects of stage magic, hiding it in fast talking and card manipulation. See, it's easy. You just take this feat and you'll be having a show on Vegas in no time. Take that, David Copperfield. So now the question that's probably on everyone's mind: who's Asteria and why is she on the cover of the Book of Many Things? Well, This book is the first time that we actually get to go into the history of how the deck was created and everything that entails. I first want to start off by saying that Asteria is the first canonically autistic individual in the D&D universe. Now, this is something, as a neurodivergent, that I really appreciate because the representation here was absolutely amazing. There are notes in the sidebars in her handwriting about how she feels about things, how it affects her, and it really gives you that extra insight and breathes tremendous life into this character, and it made it all that more important for people to understand that. So, who is she? Well, she was a princess of a kingdom who decided she didn't want to be a princess anymore, and she fled. In fleeing, she was hurt and then nursed back to health by a Medusa named Uriel. The two spent years together, becoming friends, as close as sisters. And then one day her family came looking for her and she was imprisoned. Now, Asteria didn't much like that and called down for help. And the one to answer was Istis, the god of fate. And they reached up into the skies and pulled down 22 constellations that formed the Deck of Many Things, offering them a chance to change their own fate in history. And they went on many wonderful adventures throughout the years, and Asteria is still out there today. However, in the most cottagecore fashion way imaginable, Uriel decided to make a small garden grotto in the Outlands. And there are some opportunities in this book that are presented to you where your party can encounter them and the wonderful flowers and herbs that Uriel grows there. Or perhaps even enlist the aid of these adventurers to do everything from helping out with a plight in another part of the multiverse, or perhaps even going on a heist to retrieve the Deck of Many Things itself. If you enjoyed this video and this review, please consider following us, subscribing. I'll drop a link down either in the description or the comments and on my link tree to where you can get the set of this yourself, but it is an absolute must-have for D&D players and tarot card lovers alike. I also want to apologize that I've been a bit scarce, just trying to upgrade everything here in the studio, get proper lighting, learning editing, and I'm just trying to blow into it full force. Sometimes burnout on a constant content creation thing can get to you, and it's always important to take self-care for yourself, do what's right, and jump back in when you feel you can. I think that about wraps it up for this review. Thank you all, and if you enjoyed this content, please comment below on what you'd like to see me do next. Of course, it wouldn't be a review of the Deck of Many Things if I weren't willing to draw a card myself. So, let's go. Oh, hey, I drew the dungeon. Help!